Welcome. You've taken a powerful first step toward protecting one of your most precious assets, your brain. As a doctor, I'm here to walk with you on a journey into the world of healing, prevention, and vitality. Today, we'll dive into 10 foods that prevent dementia and Alzheimer's, with a special focus on the incredible power of fermented foods to enhance gut health, an essential and often overlooked key to brain longevity. Many people believe memory decline is just a natural part of aging, but what if you had more control than you think? What if certain foods could protect your mind, support your gut, and even rejuvenate your energy and mental clarity? Before we begin, I encourage you to like this video and subscribe to this channel. I share trusted, practical health advice for older adults looking to stay sharp, active, and independent. And in the upcoming sections, I'll reveal surprising foods, ancient remedies, and science-backed habits that could help you or your loved ones avoid cognitive decline and live fully with clarity and strength. Now let's begin this life-changing exploration. Fermented foods, ancient allies for modern minds. You might not expect something as humble as fermented cabbage or aged yogurt to have anything to do with your memory. But the truth is, these ancient foods may hold some of the most powerful keys to protecting your brain from the ravages of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. As you listen today, I invite you to see food not just as sustenance, but as medicine. You're about to learn how fermented foods, those with rich, living cultures of beneficial bacteria, can help transform your gut into a sanctuary of brain protection. Let's start with a foundational truth that modern science is finally catching up to: the gut and brain are deeply connected. This is often referred to as the gut-brain axis. For centuries, holistic medicine traditions understood this connection. Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and even ancient Greek medical texts emphasized digestion as the core of health. Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, once said, "All disease begins in the gut." And now, neuroscience and microbiology are catching up to this ancient wisdom. In fact, the gut is often called the second brain. It contains over 100 million neurons and produces more than 90% of the body's serotonin, a neurotransmitter that regulates mood and cognition. But here's the real kicker. Your gut health directly impacts your brain's health, and emerging research shows that fermented foods can nourish this connection in profound ways. Fermented foods are made through natural processes involving microorganisms, bacteria, yeast, and molds that transform food substrates. These organisms don't just preserve food, they create living ecosystems that support the growth of healthy gut flora. And when you have a thriving, diverse community of gut bacteria, your brain benefits too. Reduced inflammation, better nutrient absorption, and more stable neurotransmitter production. All of these are influenced by the foods you eat, especially fermented ones. Historical insight: fermentation. Across cultures, fermentation is not new. It's a practice that predates refrigeration and even written history. In fact, archaeologists have found evidence of fermented beverages in Chinese pottery dating back over 9,000 years. Ancient Egyptians consumed fermented bread and beer. Roman soldiers carried fermented cabbage on long marches to prevent illness. And throughout history, cultures developed unique fermented foods tailored to their environments: miso in Japan, yogurt in the Middle East, kvass in Russia, kimchi in Korea. What's interesting is that these fermented foods were often used for healing and preventing mental disturbances long before we had terms like depression, dementia, or gut microbiome. They knew that when the belly was calm and healthy, the mind followed. Today, clinical studies are validating these traditions. A 2020 study published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience linked higher consumption of fermented foods with lower levels of neuroinflammation. In another trial, elderly participants who ate probiotic-rich yogurt daily performed better on memory and language tests after just 12 weeks. The implication? Fermented foods aren't just healthy, they may be protective. Against cognitive decline, how fermented foods affect the brain. Let's look a bit deeper at the biology. When you eat fermented foods, you're introducing live microorganisms into your gut, what we call probiotics. These probiotics help crowd out harmful bacteria, produce beneficial compounds like short-chain fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory, and balance your gut microbiome. This microbiome produces neurotransmitters like GABA, serotonin, and dopamine, all of which affect mood, memory, and mental focus. When the gut is out of balance, what we call dysbiosis, you may experience depression, anxiety, or cognitive fog. But when the gut is healthy and supported by probiotics, it creates a neurochemical environment that favors clarity, memory, and emotional balance. Inflammation plays a major role in the development of Alzheimer's disease. Fermented foods help counter this through both gut-mediated and immune system-mediated pathways. They strengthen the intestinal lining, reduce the entry of inflammatory toxins into the bloodstream, and signal the brain to reduce microglial activation. Those are the immune cells that, when overactive, contribute to neuron damage. So, what does this mean for you? It means that incorporating fermented foods into your daily diet could be one of the simplest and most profound ways to slow memory loss, support your mood, and age with dignity and clarity. Simple ways to add fermented foods to your diet now. Don't worry. You don't have to overhaul your life or learn exotic recipes to reap the benefits. Here are just a few easy ways to get started. Add a spoonful of sauerkraut or kimchi to your lunch or dinner. Enjoy a small glass of kefir with breakfast. Swap regular condiments for fermented ones like miso paste, fermented pickles, or tamari. Try cultured yogurts with live active cultures as snacks or smoothie bases. Just a few tablespoons a day can start making a difference. And here's something important to remember. Not all fermented foods are created equal. Look for raw, unpasteurized, and naturally fermented options, as pasteurization kills the beneficial bacteria. If you're buying from a store, check the label for live and active cultures. Real-life stories, healing at any age. Let me tell you about one of my patients, Barbara, a 74-year-old retired teacher who came to me complaining of forgetfulness, brain fog, and chronic fatigue. She was sharp and capable, but something felt off. We looked at her diet, and she was eating lots of processed foods, very little fiber, and no fermented foods at all. We made a few simple changes. She started incorporating live culture yogurt in the morning, kimchi at lunch, and fermented beet. Kvass at night. After 3 weeks, her energy had improved. After 2 months, her family noticed she was back to herself, engaging in conversations, remembering details, and even starting to write poetry again. This wasn't magic. It was gut medicine for the brain. The cycle of gut-brain. Healing your brain through your gut is not a one-time fix. It's a lifestyle. Fermented foods can help you reduce chronic inflammation, a key driver of dementia. Improve nutrient absorption, especially B vitamins and omega-3s, crucial for brain health. Support healthy mood and sleep, essential for memory retention. Enhance immune function, because a healthy brain needs a protected body. And the more consistent you are, the more these benefits build on each other. It's a virtuous cycle, and you can begin it right now. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect. Is your current diet supporting your brain's future? Could something as simple as adding a few forkfuls of fermented vegetables help sharpen your memory and preserve your independence? In the next section, we'll explore two delicious, creamy, probiotic-rich powerhouses, yogurt and kefir, and their remarkable roles in fighting age-related cognitive decline. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a single tip on keeping your brain strong and vibrant. There's so much more to come. Yogurt and kefir. The cultured brain. Boosters. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this: a smooth, creamy spoonful of yogurt or a cool, tangy sip of kefir. Not only are they satisfying and comforting, they might also be silently defending your brain. These cultured dairy products, consumed for thousands of years across continents, are now earning the spotlight in neuroscience for their profound effect on cognitive health. As a doctor, I've seen many older adults overlook yogurt and kefir, thinking of them as simple breakfast items or children's snacks, but in truth these foods are nutritional powerhouses. Rich in probiotics, calcium, vitamin D and proteins, they have a direct impact on gut health, and as we've discussed, the gut and brain are in constant conversation. If fermented foods are the orchestra, yogurt and kefir are the conductors, leading the way in creating harmony in the microbiome. A historical glance. From nomadic tribes to modern clinics, yogurt and kefir have a long and fascinating history. Yogurt is believed to have originated in Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago, when early herders stored milk in animal skins where natural fermentation occurred. Over time, it became a dietary staple across the Middle East, Central Asia, and Eastern Europe. Kefir, less well known but even more powerful, hails from the Caucasus Mountains. The word kefir comes from the Turkish word keyif, meaning feeling good. Shepherds used goatskin bags to ferment milk using mysterious grains passed down through generations, grains that contain a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeasts. These foods were cherished not just for taste and preservation, but for their healing properties. Centuries ago, Bulgarian peasants who consumed yogurt daily were noted for their exceptional longevity and sharp minds. In fact, Nobel laureate Elie Mechnikov, a pioneer in immunology, famously credited their diet as a factor for healthy aging. He proposed that lactic acid bacteria from fermented milk could prolong life by suppressing harmful gut microbes. Today, scientists are finding that Mechnikov may have been ahead of his time. Probiotics, your brain's invisible allies, yogurt and kefir, are loaded with live probiotic strains, including lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, and in kefir's case, beneficial yeasts as well. These microbes produce important substances like short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, that reduce inflammation in the brain, neurotransmitters such as GABA and serotonin that improve mood and mental clarity, enzymes that help break down toxins, and harmful proteins linked to Alzheimer's, like beta-amyloidin, a 2016 double-blind study published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience. Older adults who consumed probiotic yogurt daily showed significant improvements in cognitive function, especially in memory and language skills, compared to those who consumed plain milk. And here's a surprising fact. Kefir has up to 3 times more probiotic strains than yogurt. Its microbial diversity makes it a potent brain tonic. Some researchers even suggest that kefir's unique peptides may act as natural ACE inhibitors, which help lower blood pressure, another known risk factor for dementia. The gut-brain link in action. When you consume yogurt or kefir regularly, you're not just feeding yourself, you're feeding trillions of beneficial bacteria. These microbes don't just live in your gut, they influence your brain directly through chemical messengers and immune signals. They help regulate the blood-brain barrier, detoxify harmful substances, and support the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein crucial for forming new memories and protecting brain cells from degeneration. Many cases of cognitive decline are now believed to be connected with chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and metabolic dysfunction. The good news? Yogurt and kefir help mitigate all of these through their high antioxidant levels, protein content, and probiotic activity. Practical tips for brain-boosting benefits. Here's how you can begin using these foods for your cognitive well-being. Choose plain, unsweetened varieties. Avoid sugary yogurts, which can spike blood sugar and contribute to inflammation. Look for live and active cultures on the label. This ensures the presence of beneficial probiotics. Start with a small serving. About half a cup of yogurt or kefir is enough to begin noticing benefits. Add brain-boosting toppings. Try blueberries, antioxidant-rich, flax seeds, omega-3s, or a dash of cinnamon, anti-inflammatory. And if you're sensitive to dairy, there are excellent non-dairy alternatives like coconut kefir and almond-based yogurts that still offer probiotic benefits. Even more powerful is pairing fermented dairy with prebiotic-rich foods like oats, bananas, or garlic, which help feed the good bacteria. This combination is known as symbiotic nutrition, and it can amplify the effects on your brain and gut. From the clinic. A patient. Turnaround. Let me share a story about Ron, a 79-year-old former engineer who came in worried about his memory lapses and increased confusion. He was skeptical about dietary changes but agreed to try incorporating kefir smoothies every morning with chia seeds and berries. 2 months later, his energy had noticeably improved, and more importantly, his short-term memory tests stabilized for the first time in years. He told me, "Doctor, I actually remember where I put my keys now. It's never too late to begin. The gut can heal, and the brain can respond. Often, it just needs the right inputs." The science keeps evolving as researchers continue to study the microbiome and its link to neurodegenerative diseases. The evidence continues to build. Fermented dairy, especially kefir, has been shown to reduce lipopolysaccharides, LPS, inflammatory molecules that damage brain tissue, improve the function of the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain, support better sleep quality, which is vital for memory consolidation, lower stress hormone levels like cortisol. Even more promising, some early studies suggest kefir may reduce the accumulation of amyloid plaques, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's pathology. The bigger picture. Incorporating yogurt and kefir into your daily diet is a small act, but over time, small acts compound into transformation. If you're looking to protect your brain, improve your mood, or simply feel sharper and more connected, these foods are an excellent place to start. And remember, health doesn't begin in a prescription pad. It begins in your kitchen. Every choice you make at the grocery store, every spoonful you eat, can either contribute to brain aging or help prevent it. Take a moment now and think, could adding a simple serving of yogurt or kefir help you or someone you love stay sharp and independent longer? In our next section, we'll explore 2 traditional fermented vegetable powerhouses, sauerkraut and kimchi, and why they may be some of the most effective and surprising foods to protect your brain from dementia. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss these life-enhancing tips. You're not just learning, you're empowering yourself. Let's keep going. The next section is packed with ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science. Sauerkraut and kimchi. Brain-protecting tradition. In a jar, now we turn to 2 of the oldest and most revered fermented foods in human history. Sauerkraut and kimchi. On the surface, they may look like humble piles of pickled cabbage, But within these tangy, crunchy vegetables lies a microbial treasure chest, one that can influence memory, focus, and possibly delay the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. As a doctor, I often tell my patients, don't underestimate the power of tradition. Foods that have stood the test of time often have wisdom embedded in their very preparation. And in the case of sauerkraut and kimchi, we're looking at thousands of years of cultural use and a growing mountain of modern science that confirms what our ancestors already seemed to know. These foods don't just nourish the body, they nourish the mind. Ancient recipes, modern relevance. Let's take a moment to honor the legacy of these foods. Sauerkraut, which means sour cabbage in German, has its roots in ancient China over 2,000 years ago, where it was made by fermenting cabbage in rice wine. The technique traveled westward along the Silk Road, eventually becoming a staple in Eastern and Central Europe. Roman legions carried barrels of fermented cabbage during their conquests, not just as a food source, but as medicine for digestion and infection prevention. Kimchi, Korea's national dish, has been made for over 3,000 years. It began as a method of preserving vegetables during harsh winters, but over time evolved into an art form. Today, there are over 200 documented types of kimchi, made with ingredients like radishes, cucumbers, scallions, and garlic, all rich in prebiotic fiber and fermented with wild lactic acid bacteria. And here's the fascinating part. These foods were often recommended by traditional healers to soothe the nerves, improve mood, and strengthen vitality. Once again, ancient wisdom aligning with what modern neuroscience now reveals about the gut-brain connection. What makes sauerkraut and kimchi brain boosters? Both sauerkraut and kimchi are lacto-fermented vegetables, meaning they undergo fermentation by lactic acid bacteria, primarily Lactobacillus plantarum and Lactobacillus brevis. These beneficial strains thrive in the anaerobic brine created during the fermentation process and produce compounds that enhance gut microbiome diversity, strengthen the gut lining to prevent leaky gut, a condition linked to brain fog, and systemic inflammation, reduce oxidative stress, regulate immune responses that affect the brain's microglial cells. But it gets even better. These fermented vegetables are also rich in choline, vitamin K2, lutein, and fiber, all of which are associated with brain resilience and reduced risk of cognitive decline. Kimchi, in particular, contains bioactive compounds such as isothiocyanates and capsaicin that may enhance memory and neuroplasticity by activating protective pathways in brain cells. A 2022 study in Nutrients found that older adults who consumed kimchi at least 3 times per week had significantly better memory performance and lower markers of inflammation than those who did not consume fermented vegetables. Similarly, another study published in the Journal of Applied Microbiology demonstrated that Lactobacillus plantarum from sauerkraut positively affected mood, cognitive performance, and stress levels in elderly individuals over a 12-week period. How they work with the brain. Here's a simplified explanation of what's happening inside your body when you eat these foods. Probiotic bacteria enter the gut. They immediately start modulating the environment, outcompeting harmful bacteria, digesting fiber, and releasing beneficial metabolites. Anti-inflammatory signals are sent. These metabolites reduce the presence of pro-inflammatory cytokines, which are often elevated in individuals with Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases. Neurotransmitter support. Fermented vegetables stimulate the production of serotonin and GABA, which regulate mood and cognition. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, is increased. BDNF helps grow and protect neurons, the cells that carry your memories, focus, and thinking. Speed. toxins are removed. Fermentation helps the body eliminate harmful substances like heavy metals and pesticides, which are linked to cognitive damage. This entire cascade of healing begins with something as simple as a forkful of fermented cabbage. How to include them in your life? You don't need to eat a mountain of kimchi to benefit. A little goes a long way. Start with a tablespoon or two per day if you're new to fermented foods. Add sauerkraut to your sandwiches, salads, or as a side with your protein. Mix kimchi into scrambled eggs, rice bowls, or soups. Use the brine from your kimchi or sauerkraut in salad dressings or marinades for an extra probiotic punch. It's important to note that these must be raw and unpasteurized to retain their probiotic benefits. Many store-bought versions are heat-treated, which destroys the live cultures. Always read the label and look for live and active cultures. Real-life healing. A caregiver's story. Let me tell you about a caregiver I worked with. Karen, who was taking care of her 82-year-old mother, Helen, diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Karen was determined to do everything she could beyond medications. Together we created a nutrition plan focused on fermented foods. Every day, Helen had a probiotic smoothie in the morning and a few spoonfuls of sauerkraut or kimchi at lunch and dinner. Within 3 months, her mood had improved, and while the Alzheimer's wasn't cured, Karen reported fewer episodes of agitation, better digestion, and even clearer speech. Her light is brighter now, Karen told me, and I feel more empowered knowing we're feeding her mind with every bite. These are the stories that keep me motivated, and I hope they inspire you too. The defensive shield against cognitive decline. What makes sauerkraut and kimchi so uniquely protective is the synergy of their components. It's not just the probiotics, it's also the sulfur compounds from cruciferous vegetables, the fiber, the vitamins, the enzymes, and the polyphenols from herbs and spices. Together they form a multi-layered defense. They guard the blood-brain barrier, keeping toxins out of the brain. They neutralize oxidative stress, a key factor in Alzheimer's pathology. They reduce insulin resistance, which is now being called type 3 diabetes due to its link with cognitive impairment. They encourage neural growth and connection, enhancing learning and memory. And the beauty is, you can start today. You can take control of your brain's future with your fork. Before we move on, let me ask you, have you tried kimchi or sauerkraut? Could these ancient foods find a place at your table, not just as condiments, but as brain-supporting medicine? In the upcoming sections, we'll continue uncovering more remarkable foods, some you've likely never heard of, that work in quiet but powerful ways to protect your memory and vitality. So if you haven't yet, like and subscribe, because the journey isn't over, the best is still to come. Get ready. Next, we'll explore lesser-known superfoods and how to pair them for maximum memory retention and gut balance. You won't want to miss it.